This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And it's St. Patrick's Day. Time to get drunk and all that. But before you indulge in some Irish Guinness and all that beer stuff, consider watching this program. It is one of the most famous moments, or infamous moments, if you will, in the NHL in history. It is the Richard Riot. The riot happened on St. Patrick's Day in 1955, so it's been 66 years since it's happened. The riot was named after Maurice Richard, who played for the Montreal Canadiens. Following an altercation on March 13th, in which Richard hit a linesman, NHL President Clarence Campbell decided to suspend him for the remainder of the 54-55 season, including the playoffs. Montreal fans said that the penalty was too severe. The team's largely francophone fan base said that basically it was motivated by Richard being French Canadian. Outside of Montreal, the suspension was justified. And then basically Clarence Campbell appeared at the Forum in the game against Detroit versus Montreal. But basically there was a riot at the Forum after some things. The riot hit $100,000 in property damage. And this is 1955 money. 37 injuries and 100 arrests. Richard actually made a plea accepting his punishment and promising to return the following year to get the team the Stanley Cup. Richard lost the scoring title in 54-55 and played a role in the off-season departure of Dick Irvin Sr. Basically, Rocket Richard was a star player, and basically opponents would provoke him. Basically, they would yell ethnic slurs, hook, slash, and hold him as much as possible. Richard would be in so much trouble for retaliating and all that, including applying for slapping a linesman just months before his incident in March 1955. Richard was considered the embodiment of French Canadians. It was a hero during a time in which many perceived themselves second-class citizens. In a book called The Rocket, A Cultural History of Maurice Richard, Benoit Melicon compares Richard to Jackie Robinson by saying that both players represented the possibility of their minority groups to succeed in North America. During the 1950s, Quebec's industries and natural resources were actually primarily controlled by English Canadians or Americans. French-speaking Quebecers were really low paid and basically controlled rest of the Anglophone minority, despite the fact that there were more French speakers than English speakers. Because of this and many factors, basically, the Francophones would basically get in trouble and all that. Richard had a weekly column in a newspaper called the Samedi Dimanche, or Saturday-Sunday newspaper, and basically was mad at Bernie Geoffron being suspended in a move that was anti-Francophone, all that, and called President Campbell a dictator and prick. The league forced Richard to retract the statement and discontinue his column. Basically, yeah. Richard got himself into many issues. However, none would lead to this. On March 13, 1955, an on-ice episode sparked one of the worst incidents of hockey violence in history. On that day in Boston, March 13, 1955, Richard was part of a violent confrontation in a game between the Habs and the Bruins in Boston. Hal Laycoe high-stick Richard in the head during power play, and Richard needed stitches to close the cut. A penalty was coming up to Laycoe, but Richard basically got angry and skated up to Laycoe and struck him in the face and shoulders with his stick, even though that Laycoe was expecting a fight. The linesman tried to restrain Richard, and then actually broke a stick over his opponent's body, over Laycoe's body, before linesman Cliff Thompson corralled him. Richard basically punched Thompson twice in the face, knocking him unconscious. Richard was in trouble. Richard's face was a smashed tomato. He was given a match penalty and a $100 fine. Laycoe got a 5-minute major and a 10-minute misconduct for his high sticking, Boston wanted to arrest Rocket Richard in the dressing room after the game ended, but Canadiens players barred the door and refused to let them in. Bruins management persuaded the officers to leave with a promise that the NHL would handle the issue. Clarence Campbell ordered every party to appear in a March 17 hearing in his office in Montreal. Basically, the game's on-ice officials, Richard Riot, Montreal assistant GM Ken Reardon, Boston GM Lynn Patrick, Montreal coach Dick Irvin, and referee-in-chief Carl Voss attended the hearing. In his defense, Richard said he was dazed and thought Thompson was one of Boston's players. He didn't deny punching or attacking Riot. However, Campbell basically got angry and all that, and basically suspended Richard for the rest of the season and the playoffs. It was the longest that Campbell ever issued during his 31-year reign as league president. Montreal people said that it was unjust and unduly severe. Basically, the NHL head office, ironically in Montreal, was deluged with hundreds of calls from enraged fans making death threats against Campbell. And basically, the other cities thought that it was actually a smart move and all that. However, Montreal's public outrage was huge. It was excessive. And basically, a lot of the Quebecois regarded the suspension as the English majority further trying to subjugate the French minority and embarrass the French Canadians and all that. Campbell said he would attend Montreal's next home game against the Red Wings March 17th, despite advice not to. Demonstrators were gathered at the Montreal Forum lobby to crash the gate and all that. Thankfully, though, the police did their job. There were 6,000 demonstrators and all that, and lots of people carried signs, as you can see in the picture. The crowd was jovial, but turned surly after the police intervened and all that. Montreal was fighting Detroit for first place in the league. Jacques Plante said that the game seemed secondary, and the players' officials were casting worried glances and all that. Montreal was down 2-0 early in the first period when Campbell came with 3 secretaries from his office. One he would later marry. Weird. But the fans decided to boo Campbell and pelt him with eggs, veggies, and debris for 6 straight minutes. However, a fan wanted to shake Clarence Campbell's hands, but it was all a decoy as the fans slapped him. Basically, the police did their job. But after the fan attacked him, a tear gas bomb was set off inside the forum, close to Campbell's seat. The Montreal fire chief said that the game had to be suspended for the protection of the fans, and the forum was evacuated. In the evacuation, Campbell took refuge in the forum clinic and basically wrote a note to Jack Adams said that the Red Wings would be the winner of the game due to the forum's order closure. The game was 4-1 anyway. The departing crowd joined the demonstrators, and basically a riot ensued. Everyone was hating on it. They smashed windows, attacked bystanders, ignited newsstands, and overturned cars. Basically, 50 stores within a 15-block radius of the forum was vandalized. 12 police officers and 25 civilians were injured. The riot continued till 3 in the morning and left St. Catherine Street in shambles. Damage was $100,000, or in today's dollars, $950K. One jewelry store said that basically they lost $7,000 or $66,000 in today's dollars. Adams blamed Montreal officials after the game. If they hadn't pampered Rocket Richard, built him up as a hero, this would never have happened. Basically, this was national news in Canada. They wanted to see Campbell and Richard on March 18th. But Richard was reluctant to make a statement. But he decided to give the following statement in French and English. Well, over TV2 National Alliance. Quote, because I always try so hard to win and had my troubles in Boston, I was suspended. At play of time, it hurts not to be in the game with the boys. However, I want to do what is good for the people of Montreal and the team, so that no further harm will be done. I would like to ask everyone to get behind the team and help the boys win from the Rangers in Detroit. I will take my punishment and come back next year to help the club and the younger players win the cup. Campbell was unapologetic. He said he considered it his duty as president to attend the game. Mayor Jean Drapeau. I was surprised he was mayor at that time. I remember he was mayor when Expo 77 came on. Was livid at Campbell for attending, saying that basically Campbell goaded everyone in. Even when Campbell was arrested for inciting the riot. Years later, Jean Belleville did state that although he disagreed with Campbell's decision to attend the game, as well as fearing Campbell may have used his appearance for a statement, he concluded that Campbell may have felt that if he did not attend, he could be hiding. Campbell's absence would have not made much of a difference. Although, you got to say that, they would not have had the tear gas attack on him. And the fans trying to hurl him with debris and all that. Basically, the aftermath was huge. This is actually a game when Rocket Richard was leading the NGL in scoring, and Montreal was battling Detroit for first place. Richard missed out on the scoring title. The worst part was that Rocket Richard's teammate Bernie Boom Boom Jeffrion, who I mentioned in a thing about the Montreal Canadiens on the March 11th Sports Catastrophe on this day, won the scoring title, and the fans would not let him have it. Would not let him forget it. Worst of all is that Detroit did, in fact, win first place in the league, because the points from the forfeiture, the 2 points, got them first place overall and guaranteed home ice advantage throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Habs would face the Red Wings in the Stanley Cup Finals and went to 7 games. Sadly, though, Detroit would win on home ice, and all the games were won by the home team for the first time in a 7-game series in the Stanley Cup Finals that the home team won every game. However, Richard was correct in predicting that basically he will come back and help the younger players win the Stanley Cup. Because not only did they do it the next season, they did it 4 times after that. So they had 5 straight Stanley Cups. Richard retired in 1960. However, this would be a prelude to the offseason departure of Dick Irvin Sr. Selke felt Irvin had riled Richard and all that. Selke offered Irvin a job for life with the Habs, as long as it wasn't in a non-coaching capacity. Irvin turned him down and moved on to coach the Chicago Blackhawks. Todd Blake would become head coach, and he would be a legendary person. Dick Irvin would succumb to bone cancer after only 1 season. And I believe he died in 1957, didn't he? Yeah, he died in 1957. His son, Dick Irvin Jr., is still doing some stuff and all that, which is amazing. Dick Irvin Jr., by the way, is 89 years old. Okay. But here's the problem. Although that the hockey aspect, we're talking about the hockey aspect, this would be bigger than hockey. It was a historical thing because it took on a significance greater than a mere sports riot in the decades it happened. The sight of the French Quebecers riding over the perceived slight to a Quebec icon like Richard led many commentators to believe that it was basically a factor in Quebec's quiet revolution of the 1960s. Furthermore, the cause of the riot was suggested not to be a result of the severity of the suspension, but basically that the Anglophone president of an Anglophone league suspended a Quebec player for something stupid. Basically, French Canadians took a liking to Rocket Richard as a hero. And, rising tensions in Quebec and all that. So, yeah, there was a lot of things going on. A lot of significance and all that with the Quiet Revolution. However, I agree. I totally agree that the French Canadians were basically being treated as second-class citizens to the Anglophones in the 1950s and 60s. However, I hate to say this, but when you decide to try to take matters in your own hands to take down the Anglophones by basically kidnapping Anglophone ministers and all that, and basically becoming like a guerrilla group, the FLQ, you are very offhand and all that. Like, you're basically, the FLQ was lucky that, the RCMP and many Canadian forces didn't come down in Quebec and basically beat the tar out of them and all that. There were some Quebecers who were ashamed of the FLQ and all that. But yeah, the French Canadian prominence worked out. They got something good. In 1977, they passed Bill 101 in the Quebec legislation. That meant that all Quebec stuff had to be in English Well, if it was in English, it had to be in French as well. So it's either bilingual or francophone. Nothing pure in English. The worst part about that Bill 101 actually was that Montreal lost a lot of its financial backing because many places like Sun Life, the Bank of Montreal, and many other businesses actually uprooted from Montreal, including the Angelo headquarters, and moved to places like Toronto. So basically, Montreal was financially being hit hard. Basically, the English people were coming back with was slamming them where it hurts in the pocketbook. Quebec would try to separate from Canada on two occasions in 1980 and 1985. Unfortunately for French Canada, they failed twice, both times. 1980, they lost by a score of 60 to 40%, and they were very close in 95. But a lot of people forget that the question on the referendum wasn't to separate, it was just basically to discuss separating and all that. And I bet Quebec will want to separate from the world because from Canada because they're not really being treated well. And even though their prime minister is a Montrealer, that being Justin Trudeau, basically he's not helping the Quebec population out. But Trudeau has his own problems. The West Coast the Western provinces just hate him, and they are talking about wanting to break off from Canada. And maybe if Erin O'Toole or even Jordan Singh becomes prime minister, they might stop. But Western Canada's got their own issues to deal with. Sorry to say, but that's all I'm saying. Clarence Campbell would somehow, in some way, last till 1977 to be the commissioner and the president, and all that. A lot of people said that basically Campbell was facing the barrel of the gun from the other five NHL owners if he didn't do anything to ruin Richard's reputation. It worked short term, but long term, it actually bit Richard and Campbell in the butt because Montreal would win 5 straight Stanley Cups and basically the Quiet Revolution. So nice try, Clarence Campbell. You did more damage. You did more harm than good. Hope you're proud of yourself in heck or in hell or heaven or in purgatory, wherever you are. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Nadu.